I had a lot of things I was scared of, and I was like, I'm really overthinking things. So I didn't make the step. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing on my own? And I think one of my biggest issues was, what am I doing if I have to go for dinner? I don't know. It's very irrational, that fear. But my biggest fear was like, I don't want to go for dinner on my own. I can do the breakfast thing, the lunch thing. It's not that bad. But I somehow was like, the dinner thing, it's a problem. I don't want to go.
Hello and welcome to One Words, your go-to podcast for solo travelers and adventure seekers. Whether you're a seasoned solo traveler or someone dreaming of your first trip, this podcast is for you. If you're passionate about exploring the world or curious but nervous about traveling alone, you're in the right place. Each episode, I chat with inspiring solo travelers who share their unique experiences, showing just how diverse and rewarding solo travel can be. From conquering fears to discovering independence, you'll hear stories that will motivate and empower you to take that leap into your own solo adventure. In today's episode, I'm excited to share Tati's journey. She reached out to me on Instagram, saying how much the podcast and hearing other people's stories helped her to stop worrying about going solo. As an overthinker, it took her time to gather the courage for her first trip, Japan. But within just half a day, she knew solo travel was her calling. She embraced the independence, even dining alone became something she enjoyed. Tati also takes us to Hawaii, where new challenges awaited her. With its high costs, she worried about missing out on excursions without a travel partner to share expenses. But once again, her fears melted away and she experienced an unforgettable journey. Today, she's bringing her memories to life, sharing insider tips and tricks for anyone planning a Hawaiian escape. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired to embark on your own solo travel adventure with One Words. Hi, Tati. Welcome to One Words. I'm so happy to have you here. Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Germany, Mannheim, and I'm very happy to be here too.
The first question I ask my guests every time is, what does traveling mean to you?
So traveling to me means like what everybody says, it's freedom. But especially for me, it's the freedom to be myself. Because usually I overthink things a lot. But when I'm traveling on my own and I'm out there, I actually don't think about that at all. And so I can truly be myself. And then the connection to other people.
So how does traveling look for you? Like, where are you going? Where did you start?
I always liked to explore new countries and to get to know new people and cultures. I have always had that wish, but I didn't really have the self-confidence to go. So I also lived in different countries. So when I moved to Amsterdam, I met a friend there, and then we started traveling with a backpack in Indonesia for 4 weeks. And I was like, oh, this is my thing. I don't like this hotel and thing, like, that you are in the same place all the time. I actually want to see the real country and to actually get to know people from the country. And then I realized, oh, this is really the way I want to travel, not just sit in a resort and be there 24/7. So that's kind of how it started, that I know how I want to travel. But then it took me a really long time for the first time to travel on my own. Until this year, actually, I was always traveling with people. But the thing is, like, I traveled to a lot of places on my own, like the flights and stuff, because of my job, I have friends everywhere in the world, so I usually go and visit. But I never really dared to do that step and say, now I'm doing this on my own.
Why? What made you not do it for such a long time?
I don't know. It was always like, I was kind of scared. I had a lot of things I was scared of, and I was like, I'm really overthinking things. So I didn't make the step. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing on my own? And I think one of my biggest issues was, what am I doing if I have to go for dinner? I don't know. It's very irrational, that fear. But my biggest fear was like, I don't want to go for dinner on my own. I can do the breakfast thing, the lunch thing. It's not that bad. But I somehow was like, the dinner thing, it's a problem. I don't want to go.
I think that a lot of people have issues with going out for food alone. So going in restaurants, I think because it's such a social thing to go out to eat. And, of course, you feel like watched by other people, or what will other people think?
Exactly.
Yeah. But how do you like it now? Is it still a problem going out for dinner, or did you get over it?
In a way, I did get over it because the first country I went on my own was Japan. And actually, that's the perfect country to go on your own because everybody goes to dinner on their own. So you are just one of many who does that. And it just feels normal. And then after that, I was like, it's not so bad. I just go anywhere on my own now. Japan this year was my first solo travel. Yeah.
Great. How long did you stay there, or how long did you go?
For 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I did travel from Tokyo all the way to Fukuoka because after that I went to South Korea and then I was there for 2 weeks also on my own.
Wow. Nice. I've never been to Japan yet, but
oh my God, it's awesome.
But I feel so many people are going right now. So this year and last year, so many people went. In my small bubble, everyone was like, oh, I'm going to Japan. And I was like, I don't want to go if everyone goes. It's not that special. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it was always a dream because I love food. I'm a big foodie. And then Japan is basically my country for the food I really love. So that's why I went there.
So what made you go to Japan alone? Because no one did go with you, or?
Yes, exactly. I had nobody who had time to come with me. And the other thing was, so the initial journey was 6 weeks New Zealand and 1 week Seoul. But this was with a friend who also does a sabbatical. But then I found out how cheap it is to get from South Korea to Japan. And I was like, if I'm not going now, I will never get so cheap to Japan again. So then I decided, okay, now is the moment that I will finally do this.
But that's a great way to start, not on your own, but when you're already on the go, to move forward and do a small part of the journey on your own. I think that's a great tip. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. And obviously you liked it.
Oh my God. Yeah, I loved it. It took me basically half a day. All this overthinking. I was so scared. I talked to so many people. And then I was there for half a day. I made it from the airport to my guest house. And all of a sudden I wasn't scared anymore because I immediately met a girl that asked me if I want to join her to go out into the city in the evening. And I was like, oh, this is easy. Great. Let's do it. And then my worries basically were gone.
Yeah, I get that. I know. It's like the moment when you step onto the plane or before is always a bit scary, but then you have the first hurdle and you get over it and everything falls into place and it gets very easy.
Yeah, exactly.
So did you meet many people on your travels?
Okay, I have to say, because, it's solo travel, but I have not been with so many people. Because you meet a lot more people than if you are 2 people, because you don't talk as much to other people. It feels like, people see you alone. So I went to guest houses and hostels. And then there are these people that travel alone as well. And then basically you always find someone to talk to. So you have to really make sure you are doing stuff alone. So I actually planned stuff in the end that I really wanted to do on my own, because I also figured out that I really love to hike on my own because I can do my own pace and I can stop everywhere I want and just enjoy the view, because I sometimes just want to sit somewhere for a while and enjoy the view and other people want to continue. So I really love to be on my own when I'm just walking around in nature. And I wasn't really aware of this before.
That's how I feel about it. Also, having an off day whenever you want it, or staying in, sleeping a little bit longer, going to bed earlier, and not having to make plans with other people. That's very much part of the solo travel freedom, I think.
Yeah.
How do you do it with your work? How does it work to travel that much?
So at the moment, I quit. Basically, I just quit my job last year and I saved enough money to finance myself for a year, maybe a bit longer. So I still want to do one more travel this year. So I hope it works out financially. But for now, I just quit. And before that, I worked actually in a different country, like in the Netherlands, where you can get a lot more days off. So in different countries have like different systems.
The Netherlands have more days off? How many have they?
They have like a system that so your 100% would be 36 hours, but you work 40 hours a week. And then you can take those extra hours to take extra time off. You still have to kind of take that within a quarter of a year. And you have to mix some of your actual vacation days within it. But if you plan very smart, you can do a lot of travel. So in the 4 years I lived there, I didn't travel on my own, but I traveled a lot. I went to Indonesia. I went to South America. I was in many different places just because I had so much time.
Wow. Sounds amazing. I should move to the Netherlands.
Yeah, it has all its upsides and downsides. So I lived there for 6 years, but now I decided I need something else.
Okay. What do you think is a downside from the Netherlands?
For me, the downside is the healthcare system. It's really getting to see a GP is like horrible. And then going actually to a specialist to get a checkup, it's nearly impossible. I mean, it is possible. And I also think it's like more an Amsterdam problem, because a lot of my friends said in other cities it's better, but still, they just give you paracetamol for everything. And then they always wait instead of looking for the cause of what you have. Because I'm not someone who goes to the doctor all the time. But if I go there, I want them to really check what's going on. And this is a bit not happening there. And then you have to go within your postal code area. So if all the GPs are full, you don't get a GP. I had this problem for the first half year. I moved back that I didn't have a GP I could go to because they were all full or they had really bad reviews. And I was like, yeah, guys, but I'm not going to the worst one.
Okay. Yeah, I get why that would be a downside.
It all depends on the age. I mean, when I lived there 10 years ago, I didn't care as much as I care now. So
yeah, I get that. So now you're back in Germany.
Yes, for now. But I'm thinking, because I also lived 4 years in Switzerland, in Zurich. So I'm also thinking maybe I'm going back to Switzerland because I really liked it. You really have a good life. And basically, the money I spent this year for all my travels and just my year off, I basically saved up in this 4 years working in Switzerland. So,
but living in Switzerland is also very expensive. So
that's what everybody says. But you really earn so much that it's compensated. I really had a really great life. I could spend for me, that's, I think, how people feel when they are rich. It's not that I spent outrageously the money, but I never had to think about if I wanted to just buy that coffee here or that extra thing there. I could just do it. And I still saved all that money to finance my year now. So it's like you really earn a lot more. So you have a really good life. And everybody said that, even like for people that consider doing a PhD there, all the PhD students said the same thing. They started in Germany and said it was really tough. When they moved to Switzerland, even if you don't get as much, they had a really much better life.
Very good. So maybe you're moving back to Switzerland, and the next time we talk, I get to visit you in Switzerland, so we don't have any internet problems.
Yay!
Yes, that would be great.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and speaking of visiting, so we're doing this podcast in English because you asked me to do it in English because you have so many friends who are English speakers and want to listen to it too. And I guess that's because of your work and because you lived abroad for a long time and also you travel a lot. Is that the case?
Exactly that. It's basically my friends are spread all around the globe. So now it's even more people since I started traveling alone. It's like you add a lot more people because I have the feeling when you travel on your own, you kind of meet and hang out with the kind of same type of people. So I met some very, very interesting people, and I would also say that are friends now. So that was like really nice to see, and that's why I liked it so much. And even one of them, she already visited me here in Germany since I'm back. So it's really cool. You also meet people I even think I could really travel with because, you could tell them, hey, I want to do this hike on my own. And they would know because we met on a solo travel and we know from each other that we need sometimes our time on our own, and they wouldn't be like upset with me because I would want to do that. Like if you start traveling with someone who didn't travel like this before, I think would be different. So you can be more open about what you need and that you need your like quiet time now.
I totally get that. And I also think that's also the difference between going on holiday and traveling. So those are two different things. And people who get that there's a difference between traveling and vacationing are more likely to be your kind of people. And of course, the people you meet along the way, you attract your own kind, I guess.
I think so. I really believe so because, when I was now in Hawaii, the exact same thing happened and all my overthinking again was for nothing because it was just amazing.
Yeah, I remember the first time you wrote me on Instagram, it was like, oh, I'm going to Hawaii now and I'm a bit scared. I was away alone, but I'm scared again. And how was it? Why were you scared? Was it the same overthinking as before Japan?
Actually not. It was different because in Hawaii, I was like more scared of I have to do things with people because when then I looked up what hostels cost and hotels or Airbnbs, I was like, oh my God, this is so expensive. So I have to go to hostels and I have to find people to do something with. So actually the fears I overcame in Japan were the things like, oh, I can do all of these things on my own. But then I went to a country where it's like, oh, but I cannot afford to do things on my own. So how is this going to work out? Now I'm basically forced to have interactions because I want to travel again and I don't want to just spend a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So it was different kind of fears in the end. Yes.
That's so interesting because that would have been one of my top questions. Hawaii is very expensive, as everyone knows. But let's start at the beginning. When did you go and where did you go?
So basically, I went at the end of August until the 17th of September because I found a super cheap flight. It was like only, what was it, 800 or 850 euros round trip. And I was like, wow, okay, let's do this. In the end, I ended up being on 4 different islands because I had money left and I met a girl that went to an island. I could join her where I first thought I couldn't go because it was too expensive. So the initial plan was going to Oahu, then Maui, and then I went to Big Island. But since then I changed my plans. I didn't stay as much on Big Island and I managed to go to Kauai, the garden island, the one that is actually, after all that, the most beautiful one to me.
Great. I'm very happy you went to Kauai because I've never been to Hawaii, but I planned it a lot and I read many, many books about it. And Kauai would be my top island. So I really want to go. When I go to Hawaii, I will go to Kauai first, I think, or the longest. But I guess you landed on Oahu.
Exactly. I landed on Oahu and then there's really good recommendation and super cheap, like from island to island flights, because you can only fly from islands to islands. There are no ferries. So you have to fly, but I was flying with a Southwest airline and they are really cheap. And if you book ahead, you can get super cheap flights. One of my flights was only like $50. And then the most expensive one, if you book ahead of time a bit, is like $85. So obviously, if you say you want to fly tomorrow, it gets more expensive. But what is always good with Southwest Airlines, you have 2 check-in luggages included in the price. You don't pay extra. So if you do Hawaiian Airlines, you have to pay the luggage. You want to check in extra. I was very happy with Southwest. I found it on a blog because I was like planning a little bit ahead, trying to find cheaper options. So I was searching for travel blogs if someone wrote that they were traveling on a low budget. And then I found some good advice there. And that was one of them. And I was really happy because then it's like, oh, it's not that expensive.
Is it because it's more expensive that you planned ahead more? Or is it because it's so far away and okay, maybe it's a once in a lifetime, maybe twice in a lifetime experience to be there and you want to see everything?
So I think for me, it was more like I planned ahead because of the money. Like activity wise, I didn't really plan anything because I was like, will I meet people with a car? How will it be? So I planned nothing. I only planned accommodation because I didn't want to pay that much. So I booked all the hostels, but I also had a friend I met on my travels earlier this year. She was just in Hawaii. So I called her and then she gave me some advice of how the hostels were. So I already knew this one is a good one. But now I can also recommend all the hostels I have been to. And they were like around maybe 50 euros or a little bit less a bed a night.
Yeah.
So
compared to Asia, it's so expensive.
I know. I was like, even New Zealand is a bit cheaper. I mean, the most expensive one was 35 euro a night, but that is already expensive, I thought. But I found hostel beds for 100 euro on Hawaii. I was like, no.
Oh my God. With how many beds in the dorm?
Six.
Okay. Well, nice. So you went to Hawaii and you obviously met a lot of people to do stuff with, no?
Yeah, exactly. So it was like super easy. And the good thing is like most of the hostels on the different islands provide some activities. It was the least on Big Island. So for Big Island, I was always recommend to kind of either go to the hostel, find people to hire a car with or rent a car with, because on this island, there weren't a lot of options. And I also, for my personal taste, so I don't know how other people feel about it, I wouldn't go to the same side of the island again. I would choose the other side of the island because it's more sunny, it's more beautiful. And anyway, you can go around with a car to visit the other side. So there is Kona on the west side and Hilo on the east side. And Hilo is basically the place it rains the most, I think, in the entire US. And I was like, okay, next time I go to Kona and rather stay there and then visit all the volcanoes from there. And there's also an airport you can fly to, so it doesn't matter.
Great tip. Thank you for that. I will get back to you when I'm planning my next Hawaii trip.
My favorite hostel was on Maui, the House It. It's like a word game. And they were really amazing. It's like maybe the beds weren't the best, but it didn't even matter because it was really amazing staff, really amazing people I met, and they really do a tour every day. So even if you don't have a car, you can do something every day. But even then, you still meet people.
What made you choose Hawaii as your destination? Was it the feeling that everyone has from the movies and stuff? It's the paradise.
I don't know when it started, but it was always like, I had a very long time ago, it was like a classmate of mine, and he had a friend who went there and he showed us pictures. It's really long. I think it's 20 years ago or longer. And then he was already talking about it. And I'm like, if people talk about a place and say it's beautiful, then I see the pictures. I'm like, oh, I want to go there too and see it for myself. So basically, it's on my list for a very long time. I even at some point looked up if I could work there. There is actually a neuroscience center on Hawaii, but I don't really want to work in the US. So, but it would have been possible. But it wasn't just because of like everybody said, but I saw pictures, I heard stories, and so I don't really remember anymore why. It was a dream of mine just to be there. And I have to say it was worth it.
Great. I'm glad. Yeah, I think Hawaii, as being islands and volcanic islands and stuff, there's a lot of energy there. So, and it's, of course, it's beautiful with the nature and the ocean and everything. But was it like you expected it to be? Was it more? How did you feel being in Hawaii?
In a one way, I didn't have really expectations, but from the beauty of the country or the landscapes, it's like as beautiful as on the Photoshop pictures. You just go there and it looks like that. Like Kauai, all these like mountainside, it looks like this. I'm not wondering anymore why they use it for all the movies, because it looks magical or like in a fairy tale or like in a different world. So that's really true. But then the other thing is like, I had no expectations of how the vibe is there in Hawaii. So it's kind of its own place, but also in a lot of ways, it's still very American.
So I guess the islands you went to are also a bit different than each other, because Oahu is the main island with the biggest city and busier. And then Kauai, the extreme opposite. So what do you recommend for someone who goes to Hawaii, those different islands? What would you be like for party goers? Is more this island, or for surfers, you go to Maui?
I think for surfing, it doesn't matter if you go to Oahu or Maui. I sadly didn't do one because I was like, I don't know if this is for me. But Maui, either Maui or Oahu, I think there is no difference if you want to go surfing. I mean, obviously, if you want to have party, then Oahu is the best, because there you have the most kind of clubs or bars in Waikiki. But since I didn't go there for that, I didn't really check it out. And the one time we went out, it wasn't as nice but it was also during the week. So I didn't have a lot of expectations. And for me, Waikiki is not my thing, because I don't like beaches that are super crowded. But if people like that there's a lot going on, then this is your spot. But I have to say, I actually thought I spent the least time on Oahu, but I would change that this time, because Oahu has so many places to see and so many things to do. So I kind of thought about it more as being the busy island. And then I was surprised how much more things you can see there, because we did one trip to the North Shore and there are so many things to see and it's really beautiful. And I really liked that. And you can do so many hikes and stuff. So I missed out on some things, but I mean, I don't feel bad, because in the end, you can never do everything. But I would spend a bit more time on Oahu and then explore the island more.
What was it that you really liked on Oahu? What explorations did you do there?
We went to the North Shore and there was this like, the beaches are really nice and they are so clean. But what they do a lot there, because you have all these rocks, so they do jump off rocks a lot. And I really like that, because I'm not just the person who likes to hang out at the beach, just lie there and, tan. Not for me. There has to be something you can do. And they have a lot of these things that they have some cliffs, some rocks and stuff. And then all the locals go there and jump off the rocks too. They even help you to tell you where it's safe to jump into the water. You can also snorkel a lot. There are so many turtles. It was amazing to see so many turtles everywhere. And they are just there. Sometimes they just swim, come up with their little head, and you are like, oh my God, this is so cute.
That's so nice. What about sharks?
I didn't see one, but I also think like, if you go more out, and I didn't really do like a boat trip except on Kauai. But I think they make sure it's safe. You can see them. So you can also do tours where you can then dive or swim with sharks, but they have it safe. So they have these cages and stuff. But since it wasn't in my budget, I didn't really look for that. But it's just nice. There are so many fishes and stuff. A good tip is basically get your own snorkel set. So you have a good one, and then you can basically go to any beach and snorkel. And there, I missed out on this one bay, the Hanauma Bay, or however it's called. There, for some things, you need to pre-register to get there on the day. So you have to take that into account, that for some hikes, like the Diamond Head as well, if you want to hike up there, you just have to register online. It's only $5, but They really want to protect the nature they have there. I was really impressed by this. There was also this super touristic thing, I thought. It's kind of called Kalua. Those names are all the same, so they are very difficult to remember. Kalua, something like that ranch. It's the one where they made the Jurassic Park and all the movies, and they still have movie props in this park. But when you actually go there, you find out it's like a nature reserve, and they really protect the nature there. And they also keep like their old traditions going, and they explain you a lot about it. So they only decide for a few movie props they want to keep up so they can show it to the people. But the main thing of this whole park is actually to keep like the plants alive, because many people moved there and stuff. So some plants already were like, how do you say, extinct? They don't exist anymore. Then they found some in this park. So now they can revive them, basically.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. I heard that actually before, that you have to register for a lot of things. So also a good thing to plan ahead.
Yes. But in the end, it's not that difficult. And you can also, for a lot of national parks, they say, oh, it's then only 7 days. So like on Big Island, but it's not as difficult because you can buy most of the stuff right at the national park. So you don't really need to do that online. The only thing you need to consider that you then have 7 days then to see them all because you pay for it. But I think that's pretty easy. It doesn't need that much planning ahead, and mostly you can get it there.
Good to know. You said before that you knew when you went there that you had to find people to do some stuff. What were the experiences or the things you needed people for? What was like on top of your list?
It was like, if you wanted to go around with a car, it was like finding people that had a car so you can go around the island together, because there are buses, but the schedule is so they are not very often. So it's then only every half an hour, every hour, which is like, if you want to get around, it's very difficult, because then sometimes you arrive, the bus just left, and the next one is only an hour later. But then the good thing is, like on Oahu, our hostel had like tours that were with an actual guide, and we got them half price from the normal price if you would book them via their website. So at least that was like, you could do a whole day trip for $50, which is fine.
And did you find people with a car?
Yeah, exactly. So I did the first tour when I arrived. So I immediately met a girl that was in my dorm that was super nice. And she said she will do a tour. And on the tour, I met more people. And then we hired a car one day because the weather was a bit like rainy. So I didn't go on the hike I actually wanted to do. And then we just hired a car and drove around the entire island. And everybody was like the same as me, because we didn't really care where we go. Some people said, oh, I want to see that. I want to see that. And I was like, yeah, I'm driving. I go anywhere. I anyways have not been. So I like this kind of chill way to go somewhere. I don't want to have this, at this time we have to do this, at this time we have to do that. I actually really enjoyed this part, that then we were all on the same page and we just found some beautiful place and said, oh, let's stop here. Or like when it was nice, we just stopped. So we hired a car the entire Friday and it was a really great day.
Oh, sounds great. I do really love volcanoes. So I have to ask, did you see lava?
So you mean like the magma?
Yeah, magma.
No, they didn't let us. Okay, I could have, because the volcanoes on Oahu and Maui are not active anymore. But on Big Island, they are still all active. And there was a little eruption in the one we went to. But then I found out, they didn't let people close, because it was actually on my last day I was there and I didn't have a possibility to go there. And I was already sad that now everybody will see what I really wanted to see. But then in the end, they make it quite safe. So if something like this happens, obviously they don't just let people walk there. So I don't know how that works to actually see it, because you see all the pictures. And then I was like, yeah, but if they don't let people close, how can you ever see it? But to say I love volcanoes too, it's still so impressive to actually just the feeling to hike through that volcano, and you see all this old lava, and some of them, it just solidified and it looks like a wave. You see really cool things. So it's still very impressive, even if there is no actual magma, but it still looks amazing.
Yeah, I'd imagine, or I know it from Iceland, for example. But I've seen, well, maybe the Icelanders are more relaxed about people dying.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like, oh, you go there. We don't care.
Yeah, have fun. Exactly. I think that's a US thing, because they are afraid to get sued, everywhere is like super. You can do anything there because if they say you can do it, or even caution, it's the US. You can just do anything because it's so safe usually, because they don't want to risk that anyone gets hurt.
That's a great thing. Like, that's a plus side to going to the US. You're very safe there.
Yeah, but that on one hand, I really enjoy, because if they say you can do an activity, you actually know it's safe. It's not like in other countries. Like in South Korea, I kind of underestimated the hike, because all these old people also went there, and I was like, okay, this is cool. But then it went just down on each side, and I'm afraid of heights, so I was freaking out. But then I met super nice people, and they took care of me and were like, oh, are you fine? It's like, no, I'm just crying because I'm afraid of heights, but I'm not hurt.
That's so sweet that they took care of you. But that happens when you solo travel, no? So
Exactly. And it was even people that didn't even speak English. They just spoke Korean, but then at some point they offered me food and they tried to help. And there was always someone being very nice. And I was also told that in South Korea, it would be maybe more difficult to interact with people. And I made the exact opposite experience, because I just think it's also how you are with people. It's how people treat you. And maybe they could see they were really so nice everywhere. And people really tried to communicate with me, and they could see I was scared. And then when I made it to the next kind of mountain, they were like, yay, you made it, applause. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, and when you're solo or a woman, you're not afraid, like you're not scary or something. So I think people connect more easily with you. Good that the US is safe and Hawaii is a safe place, but I'm very sorry you didn't get to see magma.
Yeah, me too.
It's an experience, but you could go to Sicily right now.
Exactly. That's what everybody told me. I just go to Sicily,
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, then I will do that. It's closer, easier to get there and see it.
Also very cheap flights right at the moment. But back to Hawaii. Let's talk a bit about my favorite island there. How was it? What did you do there?
Okay, so the sad part is I only had 2 nights there, because I met a girl on Maui that had a hotel room already, and I could just join her and she didn't have to pay extra, so we could share the costs. And I was like, I don't care. So I booked the flight from Big Island to go there and then to fly back to Big Island, because I had already paid my hostel there. But it was worth it. So what I did was we did one day, we went to the canyon of this of the island, so it's all in red and stuff. So this Nepali coast, that track was closed sadly at the time, but also it's kind of really difficult to get some. There's a very famous track. You have to book it ahead of time, because also I think it's a sacred place, they say, to the Hawaiian people. So if you want to do that one track that everybody says is super beautiful, that needs some planning ahead. So you need to check and see that you can book it ahead of time. They always let some people on, but they said there was some issues with the water also. So there were some weird bacteria or something in the water. So they also told us not to drink any water from the river at that time. So we had to be careful. But then we hiked all the way into this canyon and we went all the way back out on one day. And at least what we did, we went all the way with the car to see parts of the coast. So you can still do a lot of like hikes and treks. And we missed out on the entire North Shore because we just didn't have the time. And what we did instead, we then took a boat trip to the coast so we can see it from the water, which was amazing. And if you have the money, if you go there, I would recommend to do the helicopter flight because everybody was like, this was so amazing. But I was like, oh, it's $350. It's okay. I'll see it from the water. I'm fine with that.
But as you said, you might go back there.
Yes, because now I found out. So for people that maybe want to pass by Hawaii, you can get really cheap flights, for instance, from Australia as well. Or if you are in LA, we met a lot of people from LA as well, and they got really cheap flights for $200 to go there. So I think it's also maybe if you are already traveling and you have a longer trip planned, it's maybe a nice stop in between, since you can find a hostel. So if you're already in warm places, because it's like 28, 29 degree all the time, it fits through if you go via Asia and then maybe you go via Australia and then you fly from there to Hawaii. You can make it not that expensive because the other girl I was talking about earlier, she did that. So she was in Asia and then she went there because she found a cheap flight.
A lot of people do it on a world trip as well. So because you're just like passing by.
Exactly.
And also a good tip is I just saw someone doing a house sit on Hawaii for 2 or 3 weeks where you can stay for free and take care of animals or an animal. And so if people want to go, I think you find a way, even a lower budget way, I guess, to go there.
And apparently there's also one hostel on Kauai, but it seems with a very dodgy website. But I met a girl, she was there and she said actually she did the all-female dorm and she was really happy. So it was really nice.
It's so funny talking to you, Tati, because I get the feeling when you first said, I wasn't sure to go alone and I just did it for a year now or 2 years, my first solo trips. But it sounds like when you have a goal, like where you want to go to, you will do anything to go there and make it happen. Sounds very interesting.
Yes, actually, that's true. Yeah, but now the nice thing is now I can actually go anywhere.
Now you did it all.
Yes. Now I can just go to more places because I need to talk to you at some point because I really want to go to Thailand. So
yes, please. So ask ahead in the future. I'm very happy to help and also host you when I'm there. So.
Cool.
Except from Thailand, what would be a next country on your bucket list?
Oh, God. I also thought about Vietnam. Then what else? I don't know. Australia. I haven't been to Australia yet. That's still on my list, but I'm a little bit afraid of the spider stuff. So it's more about that I haven't gone yet. But everybody I know who went there came back. So it's not that bad. But now I also met a lot of people that live there. So I could actually go and stay with people I met. But I also want to go back to Taiwan at some point because I have been there only for 2 weeks and I really loved it. So.
Okay. What's so special about Taiwan?
Its people are so friendly. Maybe it's also because I met people in Zurich that are from there. So they showed me around. But still, even when I was on my own, I was on my own in between because I had to travel from place to place to meet the other friends. So I had a bit of like doing 1 or 2 days on my own because my flight was a bit later. So I arrived so late that I actually had to book an Airbnb because my flight was 6 hours late and I was supposed to go on the same day to meet my friend. So I couldn't, but I was stuck in China. So I couldn't use Google or to write them that I will not make it because they block it. That was when I made the decision. I'm not going to China if it's not changing because it was really horrible. But then Airbnb worked, so I could book something there. And so I had some place to sleep and then everything was fine. So in a way, I have done a few things on my own. So I was like, why was I so scared of this before? I don't know.
It's stepping outside the comfort zone, and your brain just wants you to be safe, which is a good thing. But most of the time now in our civilized world, it's more hindering than doing you any good, all those fears.
Yeah, that's true. But it doesn't hold me back, at least. Yeah, no. But back to Taiwan. People are super nice. The country is super nice and beautiful. You can hike a lot. And the food is amazing, in my opinion. I love the food because it has the Chinese, the Japanese, everything there, plus their own kind of twist on it.
Sounds great. I never had Taiwanese food, so I have to try.
Yes, it's super nice. And yeah, everybody was so friendly. Even people that... There are also people did interact with me that couldn't even talk to me. So it's this kind of really welcoming place.
I guess, are there many tourists going to Taiwan? So I don't think it's very crowded, is it?
From what I saw, not. So there were here and there some white people because you see them easily. But there weren't so many. But the good thing is everything is also written in English. So you can easily rent a car. So if people are worried, they wouldn't understand. Even in the trains, they change from Chinese to English so you can read everything. So I basically could go with a local train everywhere and I didn't have to worry because they always showed it in Chinese and English.
Ah, that's good to know. No, I was just asking because I think when there's places that aren't that touristy, people are usually more interested or more welcoming in foreigners because it's not that common or there aren't that many people leading with bad examples.
Yeah, that's true.
Such interesting stories. Thank you, Tati. I would come to an end. And in the end of every episode, I do a small word rap. I don't know if you know. So I would give you 2 words to decide or a beginning of a sentence. You can finish with the things that come to you on the top of your head.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
Bed or breakfast?
Bed.
Ocean or lake?
Ocean.
Jungle or desert?
Oh, I don't know. I can't decide that one. Do I have to?
No, I will not make you.
I will not decide because it depends. I like both.
Camping van or 5-star hotel?
Camping van.
Being alone means to you?
Being alone means to me. Actually, being alone means to me that I'm fine and happy with myself and I'm actually content.
And being lonely?
Being lonely is a feeling to me that usually I feel lonely when I'm sad or things are not all right with my life. So I always know I have to do something about it.
3 things that have to go everywhere with you.
Okay. Besides like passport and stuff, I think my mobile phone has to be there. Then I need allergy pills.
Okay.
Yes, that's the only thing. And sunglasses.
What would you recommend someone who hasn't ever traveled solo?
First of all, I would recommend to not do all this overthinking I did. And then maybe go somewhere for the first time you think you feel comfortable. Or a place you really always wanted to go because then it feels very rewarding that you managed to do it.
Thank you so much, Tati, for your time and your stories. I hope we will meet at some point in person.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, and talk more about Hawaii and Thailand and whatever else.
Yeah, that would be nice. And thanks a lot that you invited me here. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of One Words. I hope Tati's story has inspired you to embrace the world of solo travel and take that next step towards your own adventure. Whether you're just starting out or are already deep in your journey, remember, you're never truly alone in the solo travel community. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to rate, follow, and like the podcast on your favorite platform. Your feedback helps me reach more travel enthusiasts and share even more inspiring stories. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you know someone who could use a little travel motivation, feel free to share One Words with them too. Until next time, keep moving One Words, and don't forget, don't just listen to us, go find out.